Hello everybody, welcome to Deluxe Collectibles, and today we're going to be doing my reaction and review for LEGO Ninjago Season 13, Episode 6, Trial by Mino. So if you would like to check out the reaction portion of this video, then be sure to go down below, top of the description of this video. You'll find a link leading you over to Google Photos where you'll be able to view my full uncut reaction to the episode, and then you can feel free to come back over here to YouTube to watch the full spoiler review, which will be within this video. So I would definitely recommend checking out the episode before watching this, but without further ado, we're going to get into it here, and I have my laptop here as well, just so I can kind of scroll through the episode so I don't miss any details from it. But basically, the episode starts off with Kai and Zane, who are kind of trying to find their way out of these mines, because of course it's a bit of a maze, and Zane is trying to use his internal gyroscopic positioning to try to find their way out, but it seems that something's kind of interfering with that, so they're actually kind of just going around in circles, so it's not really helping them too much. But then they wind up running into some geckos who are currently singing a song about their great savior Gilly, who of course gave them the ivory sword of deliverance. And then as well, they're just collecting some goo also, which seems to be maybe something that they eat or something that they use in some sort of way. So they're collecting some of that, singing the song, and then they wind up, of course, coming across the ninja, who actually they wind up throwing some of the goo in Kai's face, or dropping it on his face, and it's pretty gross to say the least. But basically they wind up kind of accusing them of maybe not being trustworthy, and because they try to explain that they escaped from the Skull Sorcerer, but the geckos, they're kind of similar to the Munces. They're kind of not the sharpest, but I'd say they're a little bit better, more civilized, I suppose, than the Munces, I would say, although still pretty not civilized, I would say as well, though. So basically they wind up taking them back to the Gecko's hideout, really, which is kind of like a courtroom of sorts, where basically the main sort of Gecko who's been appointed, it kind of decides their fate and decides that they should have a trial by Mino to decide whether or not they're some of these Skull Sorcerer's skeletons, or whether they are actually like the ninja that they claim to be, which obviously they're the ninja, but of course the geckos don't really get that. So basically they wind up getting dropped in through a trap door to fight one of the Mino creatures, which of course I kind of saw this coming a little bit, because there is a Lego set where it's Zane's Mino creature, so I had a feeling Zane was going to somehow get into a confrontation with one of the Mino creatures. And basically they begin a bit of an arena match here, Zane sort of analyzing the Mino creature, because they attempt to use their elemental powers, but they're unable to, because the Mino creature is equipped with Vengestone armor, so they're unable to use that. But basically Zane is able to find a way to jump over it, take out the screws that have the Mino creature like attached to the armor, and it winds up releasing the Mino creature and freeing it, because Zane said he analyzed it to find out that the Mino creatures are actually pretty peaceful and friendly creatures. So he basically winds up freeing it, making it their ally, and then they're able to kind of at least get some trust from the geckos now that they know that they're not skeletons from the Skull Sorcerer. And then they also have another gecko come to talk to the main sort of like appointed gecko, and this one seems to be the one with the necklace that Cole found, where it has his mom and his dad in it. So it's interesting where the connection will be there. I'm assuming it's from Gilly, I suppose. Maybe Gilly gave that gecko that necklace, or maybe that was just something that she wound up leaving behind, because I think that Gilly is probably Cole's mother. That's what I would assume, at least. And basically they wind up kind of seeing that, and then they use their elemental abilities to kind of prove who they are, and they actually wind up appointing Kai to the new like chancellor, basically. And it's pretty funny because now he's basically in charge of all of the geckos. So they wind up asking them, do you have any more information on the kind of origins and what's behind the Skull Sorcerer, who they are? So they basically take them to the story cave, where they kind of explain, they have some drawings on the walls. Now it's kind of hard to decipher these, they are not very well drawn and can't really tell us too much, but we get to see a little bit of a drawing that kind of shows us the dragon that the Skull Sorcerers seem to use, the skeleton dragon, I suppose. And then they showed both of the blades of deliverance, and basically how they were given to the Munces and then the Geckos, and then the Munces stole it, and then Kai kind of cuts them off saying, yes, we know this part start, but do you have any more information on the Skull Sorcerer? And then he explains of these three basically travelers who kind of wound up awakening the Skull Sorcerer, I suppose. He kind of comes out of this giant skull head, which kind of reminded me of Aladdin when, of course, they open up the giant, like, lion or tiger's mouth. I forget what it was, but in the desert, of course. And I think that that's just kind of cool. Similar sort of idea there. And then the Skull Sorcerer basically comes out, gains all of the power, and winds up capturing them or defeating them in some sort of way. It's kind of unclear. I'm assuming we'll get more backstory with that, because I think I remember seeing three other characters introduced in this season, so hopefully we'll get to see that soon, maybe in the next episode possibly. And then they basically wind up ending that story, and then Kai goes back and he's like, don't worry Zane, we're gonna try to get these geckos to work together with the Munces so we can take down the Skull Sorcerer. And of course this doesn't really go over too well. They take it as more so of a joke because it just seems so ridiculous to work with the Munces. So that kind of is how they end the episode, kind of with, yeah, this is going to be challenging to reunite both of these groups, but hopefully they're able to accomplish it by at least at some point when they need it to fight the Skull Sorcerer. So I'll be curious to see how that kind of winds up working out. I want to learn more about those three travelers as well. They seem really interesting, so I'll be curious to see how that kind of plays out in an episode. I'm sure they'll get their own sort of origin episode of some sort. So yeah, overall a good episode. I thought it had a good amount of action, a good amount of story as well, explaining quite a bit, and we get to learn more about the Geckos as well, kind of how they run their sort of society. So that was a really enjoyable episode. I thought it was pretty good. Let me know all of your thoughts down below in the comment section on what you thought of this episode. Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Where does it kind of rank for you so far in the season? And yeah, just thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like on the video and also subscribe for future Ninjago reactions and reviews. And I will see you all next time, and always remember, keep on collecting.